I've had the chance to work with hundreds of retirees over the years, and I've seen what works and what doesn't work when it comes to retirement. So if you're getting close to retirement, or maybe you're already there, here are 26 things you should know. Number one is to retire to something, not from something. And I've said this many times on the channel. You need to make sure you're retiring into something. If you're only retiring from your job and not retiring into something, A, it's going to be a very tough transition. And B, typically we often see your health start to deteriorate much faster. So yes, you can retire from your job. A lot of you are tired with your job. You've done it for many years, maybe decades, and it's time to move on. But before you do that, make sure you set something up to retire to. Again, it could be a vocation, it could be another job, it could be travel, hobby, whatever. Everyone has a different what for retirement. But just make sure you have that what before you pull the trigger on retirement. Number two is you may not miss the work, but you might miss the people. And again, a lot of people get their social environment and interaction through their coworkers. So as you leave that co-working space, where are you going to get your interaction from going forward? So make sure to put in a bit of effort so that, when you retire and you walk away from that group of friends, maybe you stay attached to them, maybe you completely detach from them, but make sure you have a bit of a social atmosphere around you as you walk into retirement. Number three is spending is actually a lot harder than you think. And for a lot of you, as you enter into retirement, the thought about spending your own hard-earned money is really tough. And for a lot of you, you're not going to spend as much as you maybe should be early in retirement. That's why I say a really good financial retirement plan is really important as you walk into retirement to understand how much you're able to spend and where that should be spent from, what type of account. But again, spending your own money isn't that easy for a lot of you. So be prepared for that kind of psychological transition of spending your money as you walk into retirement. Number four, health is wealth. And you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, the money won't get you far. So make sure you take care of yourself. Eating, moving your body, all of that. As you get older, things start to slow down. You need even a walk a day. Go for a 10, 20, 30-minute walk every single day. Keep that body moving. Again, money's one thing, but health is so much more important. So take care of your body. Number five is you'll likely live longer than you think. For whatever reason, most of us think we're going to die much sooner than statistically you will. In fact, if you're a couple, so if you're married or common law, in your 60s and somewhat healthy, the chances are one of you will live into your 90s. So have you planned for that? Even as a single person, again, life expectancy here in Canada is about late 80s. But a lot of you are thinking you're going to die in your late 70s or early 80s. What happens if you continue to live beyond that? Statistically, you will. So make sure your retirement plan and even your mental state is prepared for that. Number six is to check off your bucket list early. And this is all about the go-go phase of retirement. We have the go-go, slow-go, no-go. And that go-go phase is really the bucket list phase. Now, your bucket list could be different than your neighbors or coworkers or family, friends, whatever. Make sure you understand your bucket list. Make sure to create a bucket list, but start working through that earlier in retirement. Statistically, in your early to mid 70s, things start to slow down. And maybe some of those things on the bucket list you can't do once you get into your 70s. So make sure you review your bucket list, put it in priority of, hey, this, it's a big trip, a lot of walking, whatever it is. We should probably do that earlier, even if it is more expensive. Let's build that into our retirement plan to make sure that we can check everything off on our bucket list before we're unable to do it. And that ties into number 7, which is plan for your go-go years. Again, these go-go years are spending more money. And the idea is when you build a plan, even though you're spending more money, it shouldn't mean that you're paying more taxes. So make sure you have a clear retirement tax estate plan so that you can actually spend more, draw more money out, actually enjoy those go-go years of retirement without A, sacrificing your later years, but also B, not actually driving up your tax bill along the way. And one of the big purposes of the go-go phase is to make sure you don't get to later in life with more money than you expected to have. Spend the money, enjoy the money that you've worked hard to build up when you can. Because there is a point in life where that go-go phase, well, you're in your slow-go, no-go, and you're unable to spend that money. Ask your parents that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s. It's hard to spend that money now. So make sure you enjoy that go-go phase of retirement. Number 8 is retirement is about 10% financial, 90% psychological. And again, you need to have a really good tax retirement cash flow estate plan. That's really important. But A big hurdle that most of you will face and have a tough time getting through is the psychological. It's spending your own money. It's transitioning to no work. What are you going to do? How are you filling your time, your social side? There's a lot of psychological adjustment as you walk into retirement. So yes, you need to take care of the financial piece. It's massively important. But you also need to start working about that psychological. And that goes back to one of our first tips of retirement. You need to make sure you're retiring to something, not from something. And so that's a big piece of that psychological shift as you walk into retirement. Number 9 of things you should know as you walk into retirement is, for the majority of you, probably 98, 99% of you, you should be delaying your Canadian pension plan till age 70. And I'm not going to dig into this in this video. We have probably hundreds of videos by now on CPP, how it works, timing, etc. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're looking at options on delaying your Canadian pension plan. If you want to maximize how much money you're getting in your pocket after tax, reducing your tax bill, and paying less CRA, for most of you, you should be delaying your Canadian pension plan as late as possible. Number 10 is most of you should also be pulling out more than your minimum RRIF amount. A lot of you are waiting too long to convert your RSP to a RRIF. You have to do it in the year you turn 71. Most of you, if you retire before 71, should be converting your RSP to a RRIF long before that. We did a full video on that. We'll link that above. Check that out. But make sure you're converting your RSP to a RRIF earlier, but you should also be taking out more than the minimum amount. A lot of you are worried about, well, I have to take out the minimum amount. Look, if you have a good cash flow plan for the majority of you, it actually should be more than that minimum amount. So again, if you're only taking the minimum, you're probably running into a bit of a tax issue. Talk to your financial planner and get a proper plan mapped out. Number 11 on our list is to use your TFSA for flexibility. And I'm doing a video here next week about this. And how do you create flexibility in a plan? And your tax-free savings account is often what we call your lever account. If you need a little bit more in retirement, you can pull it from there tax-free. If you don't need quite as much in a year, you just put it back into your tax-free savings account. Let it grow tax-free for you. So it's a very flexible account. So make sure you utilize your TFSA, especially as you walk into retirement. It is your lever, your flexible account that creates a lot of tax efficiency, flexibility, and especially around emergencies in your retirement. Number 12 is to keep a cash wedge in retirement. Your cash wedge is really the income you need to draw out of your investments for the next 2 to 5 years. And again, everyone's got a different opinion on that. I like to have 3 years. That's my recommendation for you. But once you have a good retirement plan, you know exactly where your money's coming from. If you can put 3 years aside, then you're not worried about stock market returns and all of that. You have time to buffer those ups and downs in the market. So again, make sure you have a cash wedge as part of your retirement plan. Number 13 is to choose experiences over stuff. And I think earlier in life, 20s, 30s, 40s, we like to accumulate stuff. And part of that is just we need stuff to get on with life. But as time goes on and as you enter into retirement, and feedback from clients that have lived through retirement and are living in retirement is encourage your clients to spend their money on experiences, not on items. So again, everyone's got a personal opinion on this, but for people that are later on in life, they always look back and say, look, if I could redo it, I'd put more money into the experiences part of things and not into the stuff. Number 14 is don't ignore purpose in retirement. A lot of you have a skill set that you can carry on into and through retirement. And that might mean you're volunteering or giving back or utilizing your skill set to help others. Maybe you're mentoring younger people that are entering the business that you live through. So again, you have a lot of purpose as you walk into retirement. A lot of people, they feel devalued in retirement for some reason because they're not contributing on a daily basis. Look, you have the skill set. In fact, probably you have a very high level of skill set because you've done something for many, many years. Give back, whether it's volunteer or training younger people or whatever kind of fills you up. Don't lose that purpose as you enter into retirement. 15 is to avoid making emotional decisions. And we all make emotional decisions, but don't let those ruin your retirement or derail your retirement. Again, make sure you have a clear plan. Don't let emotions take over around when to take CPP as an example. Oftentimes that is an emotional decision that costs a lot of you tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, make wise financial decisions. Again, the psychological part comes into it, and that's where the emotions can take over. Number 16 is a hard one, and it's to have those uncomfortable conversations. You need to make sure you have a will and power of attorney and all these documents in place Again, a lot of us don't like to talk about death, but the reality is we all face it. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, we had a client pass away, 62-year-old single guy. And we had this conversation with him last year of saying, look, you don't have a will in place. You need that. Like, that is such an important piece. He came on as a client, and this was a big conversation we had with him. And, we can encourage and say, you need to get this done, you need to get this done, but it's up to you to make sure that you have these documents in place, have everything organized, make sure your executor knows who they are, that is their job, where they can find the will, the power of attorney, all the documents, and have some knowledge about your financial world. And so when our client passed away, he hadn't got around to his will, and it's an absolute mess. So make sure you have those uncomfortable conversations. If you're married, maybe you have aging parents, you need to have that uncomfortable conversation with them as well. So again, make sure, we don't like to talk about death, about money, right? But you need to have those uncomfortable conversations. And the more you have them, the more comfortable they are. And actually, the better off you will be moving forward, both for you, your next generation, and the generation before you as well. Number 17 is you need to start paying yourself. And this is really that transition from collecting a paycheck to paying yourself. And a lot of people wonder, like, how does this work? And my recommendation would be set it up so it comes in the same form that you currently have. So if you're getting paid bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, paycheck comes into your bank account. Once you create your retirement plan, have your investment advisor, if you're DIY, pay yourself, have that money though coming in every 2 weeks. Have that same kind of flow that you're used to. That's how your bills are paid. That's how you're used to getting it for the last decades. So keep that consistent rhythm. But that transition from being paid to paying yourself, make it as smooth as possible. Again, the amount may be a little bit different as you enter retirement. Hopefully you can get your income close to what you were making before ideally, but whatever that income is, set it up so it's on a consistent cash flow stream like you had pre-retirement, and that will really help make things a lot easier. Number 18 of things you should know as you walk into retirement is you may feel a little bit lost. It's exciting, but you are entering into this new phase and it's kind of a whirlwind, right? A lot going on. You're not really sure where things land. This is normal. So if you're feeling this as you walk into retirement, you're not alone. This is completely normal. So it's very important to know that too, because a lot of people get worked up. We've heard people going back to work. It's like, well, I don't feel settled. I'm going back to work. Give it some time, create some structure. And this is why it's really important to kind of work on this as you get close to retirement. So it's not kind of a cold turkey in retirement, have no idea what I'm doing, no idea what my value is, my social network, all of it. So it all ties together. But if you're feeling a little bit lost in those first months or years of retirement, you're in the majority. So talk to others around you that have entered or in that phase of retirement. I can almost guarantee you they're facing a lot of the same challenges and thoughts that you're facing as well. Number 19 is tune out the headlines. Look, there's always going to be bad news out there. In fact, the news channels are all about bad news. That's how they make money. And so you need to really tune that out. Tune out the markets, right? As you enter retirement, what's going to happen is, of course, you start spending your money. And then we have news come up, right? Markets are dropping. World is ending. Things are, different than last time. Look, we've heard that again and again and again. And the reality is, as you walk through retirement, there will be many times of your portfolio dropping in value. There's going to be 10, 20, 30% drops again and again and again. You can't avoid them, but you can prepare for them. And what's going to help emotionally is to tune all of that out. Yes, manage your money well, take care of your plan well, all of that. You have to be diligent in that. But a lot of the headlines we see are wasted space. Don't fill your brain with the bad news. Understand what's going on in the world, but there's too many bad headlines, and a lot of you need to tune that out. A lot of you look at your portfolio every single day. That doesn't help you. There's no value in that. So again, shift the mentality, take care of things well, but tune out the headlines. Number 20 is to keep using your skills or even build up new skills. Don't stop using your brain. As soon as you stop using your brain, and I've seen it with clients, I've seen it with family, things slow down very quickly. Keep that mind moving. So a lot of you, again, you have that skill set. Keep that skill set going. Again, maybe it's through a volunteer thing. Maybe you work part-time, maybe whatever it is. There's so many options here, but keep that brain moving. Don't retire, sit in a chair and watch TV all day. Keep your mind sharp, and that will help both with health, with energy, with purpose, with all of it. So keep that mind going. Number 21 is don't settle for high investment fees. I still see way too often clients coming in doing plans with our office that are paying 2 to 3% in investment fees. They're getting no planning for it. Strictly the investment management, they're paying 2 to 3%. Look, you're burning money unless you're getting a consistent 20% rate of return, which you're probably taking way too much risk in retirement if you're getting that. But a lot of you are paying high fees and you're just kind of ignoring it. Those fees eat away. Look, it's fine to pay a fee. If you're getting something for the fee you're paying, absolutely. I am fully on board with that. In fact, that's how our business model is. We charge a fee and we provide a service. And that service is going to cover our fee and much more. We provide value for the fee. But so many of you are sitting at your financial institution getting no planning, no retirement, tax, estate planning, nothing. They're putting you in mutual funds, ETFs, not necessarily a great product per se, and you're paying a very high fee. Don't settle for that. Have that tough conversation. Maybe it's time to move investment advisors. Find a good financial planner to actually help you plan through retirement, right? As you enter into retirement, this is a time to review things, figure out maybe you've had a great person up until this point, but there's more accumulation. And you're entering a different phase of life where it's decumulation. It could be a totally different advisor. And a lot of people hire our office because of that. They're like, look, Adam, we've had someone great to this point on the accumulation, but we need decumulation specialists. How do we draw down our accounts, create tax efficiency, estate planning, all of that? So again, it might be time for a change, but it's definitely time to stop paying high investment fees. Number 22 of things you should know entering retirement is stress test your plan. And this stress test, there's hundreds of options out there. But I always say, what keeps you up at night or what's spinning around in the back of your head about retirement? Have your financial planner map that out for you. I know for our office, for our planning team, often the requests are, what happens if my spouse or partner dies early? What happens if my rate of return is much higher or lower, or inflation's much higher or lower? What happens if I take my CPP at different times, right? There's different types of stress testing and scenario testing that you can take a look at. And I want to throw one in here that a lot of you asked for that I have a better solution for. And this is really important. A lot of you asked for Monte Carlo simulation or sequence of returns. And I always say, look, we can run those, but they're variables that we cannot control. So I can run all the scenarios in the world and say, look, based on the Monte Carlo, here's the opportunity of success. But we can't control what's underlying it. What a better way to do it is create a really good retirement cash flow plan. So you know exactly how much money and where it's coming from. And then again, build that cash wedge. Put 3 to 5 years of cash flow aside. Then if the market drops 30% in year one of retirement, yes, on paper, a lot of your investments are down, but the income and the cash flow that you need isn't down. It's here sitting for you 3 to 5 years. So you have time to let that bounce back up. And again, markets go up and down, but over time they go up. It's that short term, especially in retirement where you're drawing out your accounts. If you have that cash wedge, you worry less about the downs in the market because they will come back up. We can replenish the cash flow, the cash wedge, and move forward from there. So that's the mentality I encourage you to have as you walk into retirement versus worrying about stuff that you can't control, like sequence of returns and Monte Carlo. As good as those are, they'll fail you in retirement. Worry about your cash wedge and a proper cash flow and retirement plan, and you'll be much better off. Number 23 is take advantage of tax planning opportunities. And for the majority of you watching our videos, you're T4 employees or you work, meaning that you had a job, you got a paycheck every few weeks, and they took tax off. And the only tax planning opportunities you ever had was donations or put money into an RSP. And when you hit retirement, you have a lot of tax planning. Everyone's able to tax plan in retirement. You're able to pay less tax, implement some tax strategies. Yet most of you aren't doing that. You're kind of living the same routine as you did when you were working. And you're just pull this. Yeah, I need a little bit of money. I'll pull it from here. And you're not taking advantage of what's in front of you. So sit down with a professional, map out a strategy, see where you can reduce your tax bill, and look at different scenarios and map out a scenario or a plan that reduces your tax bill and puts the most after-tax money in your pocket. Number 24 is look to pass on wealth earlier. And for those of you that are fortunate enough to build up a bit of a nest egg and you won't be spending all your nest egg, or maybe some of your estate wishes are actually to help your kids or grandkids, I encourage you to look at passing some of that wealth earlier. And for some of you, I had a conversation with someone this morning of, You're not going to spend all your money. In fact, some of your non-registered investments are actually a tax liability to you. And so why don't we actually carve that out, pass it to the kids now? They're going to get it eventually. But instead of it being a bit of a tax liability, climb back your old age security, and your kids are sitting here with mortgages at 4, 5, 6%, let's actually create generational wealth here. So if you're in a position where you're going to pass money to your kids, or you want to pass money to kids, grandkids, charity, whoever it is, sit down with your planner and figure out, can I do that earlier? When could that be? How does it work? Where does that money come from? And how do we create tax efficiency around it all? Number 25 of things you need to know as you enter into retirement is don't listen to that so-called financial expert in your life. You know the person, your neighbor, your coworker, Joe next door, whoever it is. We all have that financial expert that always has the best, the greatest things and all the knowledge in the world. The reality is they may not know all that much. So do your due diligence, right? Reach out to multiple professionals. A lot of people I talk to, it's like, yeah, Adam, we're talking to you and a few others, figuring out where we should land on all this. Great, perfect. That sounds great. We have a lot of information on our website. YouTube's out there. Again, be careful who you're listening to. Like, if you're getting knowledge from people on YouTube, but none of them are licensed, have an education background, continuing education, etc., you might be going down the wrong rabbit hole, right? Like our team, like for me, I'm a certified financial planner. I also have my CLU, Chartered Life Underwriter, which is advanced estate planning around taxes for personal and corporation. And this is stuff we have to keep up and continuing education. So when I talk about stuff and say, hey, not only this is things you should do, but we're also on the ground working with clients. So we see it day in, day out. Joe next door, he's doing it in his basement. He may not know everything. He may not know when the best time to take CPP is. It's a personal opinion on his end, right? So be careful. Are you getting your information from someone that's spouting off personal opinion, or are they educated? Do they do this day in, day out? Have they looked through different scenarios? Do they have the software to look at different things? Again, be careful who you're listening to because it can be a very costly mistake. The 26th and final point in all this, get a detailed plan. I don't know how people walk into retirement without a proper detailed retirement plan. Where to draw money, how much money they're going to have, can they actually retire, how to create estate efficiency, tax efficiency, all of this. This is all encompassed in a really good retirement plan. And maybe you've been working with an investment advisor that's taking care of your money to this point, but typically they're not building out a really clear, detailed retirement plan. In fact, a lot of times the big financial institutions, they take your information, plug it into software, hit a button, and say, here you go. That's not a detailed plan. It's a starting point maybe, but get a really deep, detailed plan. It's going to give you that step-by-step for every year right through retirement. What to do, how to do it, how to reduce your tax bill. If you have an emergency, where does that come from, etc. You need to have a detailed plan. Again, if you need help with that, our office does offer advice-only planning. You can learn more at parallelwealth.com/planning. All of the information's on there, sample plans, etc. Check that out, see if it's a good fit for you. Again, we want to make sure you walk into retirement in a really good spot, and a lot of you aren't. So make sure you get a detailed plan in place before you enter into retirement. Thanks for joining us in this video. We'll see you in the next one.